All right. We're live. We're waiting for people to log on. Welcome.
Hi, ladies. Good to see you. Larissa, I haven't seen you in so long now that I think about it.
I know, it's been a long time.
I see you online though. Isn't that something sometimes you feel like you're friends with somebody that you see online all the time?
No, it's so good to see you. It's so great to share this space with a person I have always looked up to, all the work you've done and still doing. Oh my God.
No. And likewise. I'm excited to get into it and chop it up and talk about what's going on.
Yeah, let's talk about it. Let's get into it. Welcome people who are joining. Hi, everyone. We're going to let some more people jump in and then we will get started. And I'll have these wonderful women introduce themselves and talk more about their organizations and their wonderful work. So we'll give it about another 30 seconds or so before we get into it. You are on the LatinX TalkBack on immigration in our community. Thank you guys for joining.
Thank you for inviting me. I think this is I haven't been on a Facebook Live, I think, for a very long time. So it's really nice and I feel really honored to have been invited.
It'll be fun. It'll be fun to talk with you all. And yeah, let's talk about what's going on. And I feel like this is, especially right now that we're all, in quarantine and through COVID, it's so important to connect. And so I'm so glad to connect with you guys, especially on a topic that I'm super passionate about. So, yeah, I guess we'll get started. What do you guys think?
Let's do it.
All right. So welcome everyone to the LatinX TalkBack, where we cover Latinx real life stories and testimonies of healing from generational oppression. Yes, we are going to go there. Not everyone is ready to talk about this, but if you're Latinx, first, second, third generation or immigrant, and you have a story about your family's survival of oppression or abuse, and if you're ready to share, please connect with us. This episode of the Latinx Talkback is about immigration and how the personal intersections with immigration we have as Latinos and Latinas. We will address stereotypes, myths, and the intersectionality of immigration and communities when it comes to being a family member in a mixed status family, being a friend, and being a coworker of individuals who might not have status in our community. How does immigration affect all of these public and private parts of our lives as Latinos? There are many reasons that immigrants and Latinos are linked. However, we as Latinos who live here in the United States, citizens and non-citizens, are also complicit in systems of immigrant oppression. So we're gonna go there too. Despite our proximity to immigrant people and the Afro-Latinos in our families, we've internalized racism runs deep in our Latino community. And although we try to represent all voices at each one of our Latinx talkbacks, like today, we have a long way to go to break down hundreds of years of white supremacy. But as Latinos, we refuse to be active in the Black and immigration liberation movement without being active. So we refuse to not be active. We must be active in Black and immigrant liberation, and it must be a co-liberation. And this alliance is so important. We're going to talk more later about how important this alliance is and how people can take action in this alliance with the Black Lives Matter movement. Our promise to you as viewers is that we will continue to challenge ourselves to pass the mic and give voice to everything that is ingrained in our community and things that are swept under the rug. They have to be brought out. We have to talk about them so that we can heal from them and move forward as a community. So today I'm going to ask that we take a moment of silence. And during this moment of silence, I will read a poem by Natalia Armancanqui. I would like to invite everyone to take a moment of silence for George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, Ahmaud Arbery, Tony Robinson, Vanessa Guillen, Jacob Blake, who was recently shot in Milwaukee, and thousands of Black lives that have been robbed of us in the past hundreds of years due to white supremacy, police brutality, and institutionalized racism. Before we begin our silence, I wanted to share with you that I started thinking about why people have been using silence as a means of honoring those above who have passed on. And I realized that there comes a point where and when words become empty, especially in a reality filled with false promises of change. There are no words that can bring them back. So because there are no words and because silence and action are sometimes better than words, let us take a moment of silence, holding the power of the names that I just read in our hearts and minds and the brightness of their spirits, which live on, motivating and inspiring us. Okay, so with that, let's get into it. How are you all today? I will get the chance to each of you beautiful women to introduce yourselves and talk to us more about your organizations, about your work. I am interested to speak with you guys, to get in deep with this topic. I know that right now immigration is seen as a very political topic, but we all know as Latinas, and personally me, who, someone who grew up in a mixed status family on the border, this is our lives. It's not politics, right? It runs deep. And so let's go there. Let's get into it. So let's start with Valeria, you're to my right. So I'm going to start with you first, Valeria. And so we have Valeria Cerda. And Valeria, if you will share your title and your organization and a little bit about you and your work.
Hi, everyone. My name is Valeria Cerda. I'm the Civic Engagement Director at Wisconsin Voices. And so essentially what that means is I help our partner organizations all across the state figure out who they want to talk to, about what, in what ways, and sharing best practices, supporting and coaching them, and to make sure that their programs are successful, and that they feel good about the story that they're telling through their work, through their data, online, wherever it may be. What I like the most about my job, I think, is being able to be really close to many organizations and kind of having I guess like an eagle eye, right? Like being on top and like being able to see how groups work and connect with each other has been really interesting. And just making connections between the groups has also been really exciting, because sometimes when you get involved in your work, you don't see how you connect with others. So that's been really interesting and such an honor to work alongside many great organizers. Yeah, I mean, that's a little bit about what I do. Just a little snippet, but I'll pass it on to Nancy to introduce herself.
Yeah, thanks, Mitch. Thanks, Valeria. Can we cuss here a little bit? Hi, everybody. I'm Nancy Flores. I kind of have a problem with like the question of like, what do you do? I don't know. I feel like it like diminishes people so much to like, but I know that we're going to get into so much more than that, but I'm currently with the National Partnership for New Americans. So I'm the development director there. and it's a Chicago-based organization that's actually national. So I work here out of Milwaukee, and I want to tell a little bit about the story of how the network started, because I think it's relevant and it's important. So NPNA started back when Obama was reelected, I believe. And the reason why we had come together is that the country's 9 leading immigrant rights organizations came together and said, holy cow, immigration reform is on the horizon. We're about to get it. And we're not set up to be able to handle a mass legalization. And we have to equip ourselves to do this. And how do we, like, organizations that have so many people coming in through the door because they need this, that, and the other, they're going to come to us, right? It's inevitable that they're going to come to us and we're not ready. So that's how the National Partnership for New Americans was created, out of that need. And then obviously fast forward to now, we know that immigration reform didn't happen under Obama. We know actually the incredible problems that the Obama administration caused for the immigrant community. So since that didn't happen, our organization shifted to have a couple of different priorities. So we focused on, kind of like Valeria was mentioning about Wisconsin Voices, we were focusing on helping organizations build their infrastructure. So, we started with these 9 powerhouse organizations, and now we have 41 organizations across the country. Voces de la Frontera is our Wisconsin member, so still work very closely here. But, helping them build their legal infrastructure. How do they become BIA accredited? How do they process people, as many people, for little to no cost? So we know that a lot of times those are really life-saving services, right, for our community. So that's more or less what we do. And a big thing that we've been doing since, the absence of immigration reform is that we've been really focusing on citizenship. So there's a trajectory of the organization of really being able to advocate for citizenship and the expansion of it. And obviously, I don't have to tell you, and I'm sure we're going to get into all of the attacks under this administration, but citizenship has obviously been something under attack. So I can get a little bit more into that, but that's a little bit about the work that I do. And actually that's what the organization does, but I do a little bit of everything, a little bit of fundraising. So of course, I think we dropped the link in the chat. If you want to throw some dollars over here, fundraising is certainly part of what I do. And then also we're running this campaign called the New American Voters. So happy to get into that when we talk about how to engage people in this upcoming election. So that's a little bit about me, and I'll turn it over to Larissa.
Hola, hey everyone. I hope you're having a great day. I just came home from a rally that we had here in Madison. We are there's a lot going on, but yeah, I'm Larissa, Joanna. I am a local activist here in Wisconsin. I'm also board of directors with Wisconsin Revolution and a longtime member and volunteer with Voces de la Frontera. Technically, I also try to do a little bit of everything. I guess learning, I try to learn a lot of the things that are going on so we can push our community forward, and strategies that we can take, and building unity, all of that, building community, and listen to our brothers and sisters, everyone in general. Everything kicked off when I was super young. We had an encounter where ICE came to my house, and they took my dad. This is probably about a little bit over 10 years ago. So I was a child, technically. Now that I look back, I thought I was grown, but I was literally a child who was going through all of these things and learning all of these things that were happening in our communities, because obviously this is, just like Aissa mentioned, a problem that a lot of our families, when we're in a mixed status family, go through. So that really pushed me forward to continue to find ways to fight these struggles that we are going through. And I really got inspired with all of the things I got involved with Voces de la Frontera, and still do, because it has been amazing. I mean, I remember going to Washington, D.C. to advocate for DACA before DACA was a thing. That was kind of like one of my biggest, my first biggest experiences in this whole activism world. And I really like the fact that I could use my voice and my my body and technically my voice for so many, be the voice of many. And as I grew up, obviously, being a mom and being, sorry, my camera, being a mom and being, growing up as an adult, I find all these struggles that are coming through every day in our lives. And it's a lot of things. It's way too many struggles that it's not okay. We're lacking basic human rights, and that really gets me angry. I'm also an advocate for workers, and specifically undocumented immigrants workers, because they are the ones who suffer the most, work abuse, wage theft, the list can go on, and they're the less protected class. So that's a little bit of what I do. I recently started getting involved with small groups and organizations in the Black Lives Matter movement, it has been so powerful to be next to them fighting and winning at the same time, because even though we haven't accomplished very much at a local level or not at a state level, but those small wins are so powerful. They're so inspiring, and that's why I'm here today. So I can share how that feels, so I can share how powerful that is, and how much that unity really means to me, and how much we should all be united right now.
You all are amazing. I have chills just thinking about the work, how far it extends, your words, and how true they ring. I don't think I introduced myself, but I will be super brief, and because definitely the work that these women do is amazing, and I can do the work that I do because of people like you, right? So my name is Aissa Olivarez. I am the managing attorney at the Community Immigration Law Center. I run a universal representation program, which is a program that envisions giving lawyers to every single person at risk of deportation. Why? Because immigration court and its processes are often unfair. There's a lot of injustice in the immigration system, and by assigning a legal representative to each person at risk of deportation, we ensure a fair process, and we ensure that families, to the best of our ability, are reunited outside of a detention facility. So that's the work that I do. And it's because of people like Valeria, Nancy, and Larissa that I'm able to do this work, because organizers and advocacy are at the foundation of being able to launch legal representation programs like the one that I have right now. So let's get into the discussion then. I'm excited to learn more about each of you and get into depth about your work and really get into this. So immigration, like I said, it's become a political issue, but it's something that's very personal to our lives. And so I want to know, personally, I know this work is difficult. It's hard. It's hard to stay engaged. It's not hard to stay engaged, but it's hard to wake up in the morning sometimes, like I just had a cup of coffee, but I need 3 more, right? It's difficult. It's heartbreaking, right? And there's days when I feel like I can't go on, but I know I can't stop. So how do you all get inspired to go and fight for immigrant rights every day? How do you keep the energy going in your organizations, in your communities, and at your home with your kiddos? How do you get inspired to fight for immigrant rights?
Yeah, I can kick it off, and then obviously everybody has their different perspective. I think for me, we all have kind of like our moment of awakening, and I think for some people it's like a very specific moment, and for other people it's like you've always felt this way, but like now you realize what it is. And I feel like for me, what like specific to the question of like what helps me fight, I feel like recently it's like a lot of anger. And I feel like if you're an organizer, it's because you're angry. You know, you're like led to action because it can't be okay, right? Like this isn't, there's got to be something, right? And maybe you don't have the answer, but doing something is better than doing nothing. So I think like if we look at this particular administration, I think like immigration has been politicized for many years. I mean, I think about like things like Operation Wetback, you know, like several decades ago, and to now, you know, even like I think it was like a year ago or 2 years ago where they were talking about, you know, the Republicans specifically talking about wanting to get rid of the 14th Amendment, you know, that like gives birthright citizenship. And they're specifically trying to target brown, you know, and Black immigrants. Like this is who they're mad about, right? They're not mad about the white immigrants and all of that. So I feel like discrimination doesn't see whether you have papers or not. You know, that's just the bottom line. And I think that as somebody who was born and raised in the United States, for me, it's always been like, I still don't feel like this is 100% my home. You know, and I think that a lot of people feel that way. And there's growing up in the Midwest, I feel like kind of adds fuel to that fire because of the unique experiences that we have being surrounded by mostly white folks. And I think that a lot of those folks that you're like the first Mexican friend they've ever had, or like, you know, some bullshit like that. But I think that like, so I feel like it's been a lot of like these experiences that I've had that I feel like I didn't know where to put that anger. That now that I understand the systems, that I understand that collective action has a ton of power. Like there's more workers than there is bosses in this country, across the world, right? So how do we use that power? And I think that, you know, looking at collective action as a really key thing, looking at advocacy, looking at, you know, how all of these things come together, that's my coffee in the morning for sure.
I think I really resonated with some of the things that you said on feeling like some days you just like, how am I going to get through this day? Like doubting, like at the beginning of your day, what you're going to feel like at the end. I think there's like some very specific images or days that just popped up in my head when you said that. So the imagery was like powerful. But funny because I've been asked this question actually earlier this week. So I feel like I've had some time to reflect on it. But I think for me, what it really is like seeing really amazing peers, leaders, comrades like Nancy and Larissa. Like just hearing you, I guess, speak now really inspires me, and I think gives me like some sort of like energy. Like how could I stop, right? Like I think that's the real question. Like when I meet like badass people who I don't know, I'm like, yes, we're out here, we're growing. So how could I not, right? And then when you see people who you used to hang with, and then they tell you all the great updates about like what they're doing, the work that they're doing, how impactful they are, then I will so ground myself in that, like, how could I stop, right? When we have this like growing community of Black and brown women just like running this shit, right? And how could I stop, right? Like, I think it's an honor to be like, to grow and witness and see other people's badassness happening, right? And then también como dice Nancy, like, I remember when I was an angry brown girl in college, and I really didn't know what to do with like all the anger or like how to channel it. And I think is once I started to get more accustomed to like what organizing was, because I didn't know that was a job, right? I found where like I could actually channel a lot of that. And I think how could like, I couldn't stop, right? Even for my own mental health, like what would I do with all that energy? I feel like it really is like my responsibility to keep going, right? And like the charle chingadazos, right? Like just keep going, but at the same time, like making sure you take care of yourself and create like a community that like, you know, that everyone has their back when it's tough, and kind of creating those new, like that new culture of like, I'm gonna go hard, but also I'm gonna go make sure I put myself first to take care of myself. Because of course, like, no puedes destaparte a ti para ayudar a otra persona. Like, you gotta take care of yourself first. So that's a really big lesson I learned this year to like help me get through it all. And then I think also just seeing like a lot of badass organizations like putting in work, like lifting up and developing like so many leaders. Like, there's no doubt that like that they're gonna grow stronger. We're gonna grow stronger, and I couldn't see myself sitting on sidelines while it happens, right? And so I got to put in the work, and it comes just from like a lot of love too, right? Like loving our people, like my people, because I think leaving anyone behind or not doing work for other folks, it's like letting down like my family, right? Like, how could I? So yeah, it's challenging. Like, it's super fucking challenging. Like, no lie. But I think like because of all the things I named, like, can't stop, won't stop. Like, you really can't.
Thank you, Valeria. And if anyone is just joining us, you are joining the LatinX TalkBack on immigration in our community. And we're talking to Valeria, Nancy, and Larissa about the amazing organizing work that they do on the ground around immigration. And right now we're talking about how do we keep going in the face of so much pain, in the face of so much anti-immigrant sentiment, and knowing that our leader, our supposed leader, is saying things about our community that are false and that are wrong, and that we're involved in such an unjust system. Larissa, how do you keep going? Because, mujer, I know that you are in the streets, that you are out there luchando cada día. No sé cómo lo haces. I am exhausted sometimes watching you, but please know that I always send my love and I send the strength that I have to you. Larissa, how do you do it?
Thank you so much, Aissa. I really appreciate that, honestly, because I think that's how I do it. I love the love, I love the strength that people send me. My Lord, obviously, that's first. I depend on him. My kids keep me going. My family, just like Valeria and Nancy mentioned, a lot of us suffer firsthand. It's like hard to turn away from a problem where we live in that problem. It's hard to turn away from a problem when our friends are living those problems. It's hard to turn away. Like, I cannot just get those sidelines people get. I cannot turn away. I cannot be still. I cannot just let it, I cannot be quiet about it, because it really hurts me. I guess even like, also like as a mom, I think of people like, there's someone's child, and like, as a mother, like somebody, as a mother, I know their mom would like someone to fight for them. So we gotta fight together. Definitely triggered by anger, just like Nancy said. It's definitely one of the things. There's so many things happening in this country and in the world, in our state, in our city, so often. Here in Madison, it has been crazy. A lot of things happening, a lot of injustice. Obviously, everywhere in Wisconsin, it's one of the worst states for people of color. So all of that, it just hits super close, and it bothers me. It really bothers me. And if I know I can use my voice, my resources, my whatever I have near me, or I want to get it done. I want to make sure we make some noise. I cannot stay quiet about injustice, because I also I had learned how the media works, that like the news is not specific. They always make us look really bad, like brown and black people. Black people are always like criminals. Brown people are always criminals as well. And like all of that is not true. When you get to know your community, when you get to know all the stuff that people it's going through, I don't like that. I don't like how all of that works. That's why I support a lot of like independent news sources, because I rather the truth to come out, and the good side of all of this, because we are all suffering, and a lot of us are broken or whatever, but we trying to hang in there and keep surviving, especially right now during COVID. That has hit really hard. Many of our homes, our families are suffering, our community suffering. I was so upset when a lot of my community members, they were denied any relief funds, all of that, like insurance, they were turned away from hospitals, people's dying, people's getting sick, all the work abuse that's going on all over everywhere. But here in Wisconsin, like, that really bothers me. So it really pushes me to, say something about it or do something about it if I can. Use the resources, like I said, or the anything that we have in our reach to make sure we make some noise. Like, we cannot stay quiet, and we cannot pretend things are okay, especially when it's happening in our communities, or with the people we love, or brothers and sisters. It's not okay to just let it slide, because we might not be going through the same struggles, but at the very end of the day, there are struggles, and they're coming from the same people. They come from the same people that it's leading this country, the state, the officials, or so-called leaders sometimes. I believe that we need to hold everyone accountable, because we paid so much money. They take so much money out of our checks or taxes. There comes a point where we make too much money for our kids to get basic rights, and it's not okay. It's not okay. All of the systemic racism that exists in this country, and I am not okay. I am not okay lately, everything that's happening, but I am also really inspired by all of the love. Honestly, it's all love. What people shows when you get together. I mean, like, lately I have been doing things that I had never done before, and creating this relationship with people I would never, because being biased is so real, being brainwashed is so real, especially in our communities. Like, los Latinos somos muy racistas, and we need to be better. We need to get better. We need to heal. We need to get to know everyone in our community, because not everyone it's bad. Like, some people do need help, and do need resources, but the way they make it seem that how we are, especially minorities, that's not true.
So if you're just joining us, you are joining the LatinX TalkBack on immigration in our community. And Larissa, you just mentioned que hay mucho racismo en la comunidad. There is a lot of racism in our community. And sometimes, as Latinos, there's anti-immigrant sentiment in our community. So let's talk about that. We know that we come from a community of organizers. We have a lot of Latinos that have been involved in civil rights in the past. We have LULAC, we have the farm worker movement, we have MALDEF, we have Mendez versus Westminster, which has set precedent for Brown v. Board of Education and segregation of education. So Latinos have long organized, but there's still anti-immigrant sentiment in our community, and we hear it, and we know it, and we know who those people are now that they're coming out of the woodwork, supporting a certain someone that has said a lot of things that are harmful to our community, to be kind about it. So let's go there. Let's talk about it. Why should Latinos support the immigrant movement, the immigrant rights movement? Why is it important for all Latinos to be involved in it? And whoever wants to kick it off, go for it.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like this is a whole topic that we could spend like a whole chat on. Because I feel like just as you were saying that, I felt myself getting fucking angry. A shout out to Camila. I think she's watching. But recently in Milwaukee, she, led some efforts to call out, some establishments that were supporting these gatherings and this community. And I think that if you're not for us, then don't profit from us, and I think that was really badass. So just want to applaud her. She should definitely be up here on this panel and part of this conversation in the future. And so many mujeres, that are tuning in as well. But I think the way that I see it, it's like two things. And I know that we have a lot to cover and we're already halfway through. But I feel like we're talking a lot about white supremacy lately. And because it's like, took its hood off and it's like looking at us in the face, right? But this is something that's been there for a long time. And you don't have to be a white person to buy into white supremacy. You don't have to be white to also think that white is superior. Whether that's because that's what you see in Univision, all of these güeritas with green eyes and like they're Mexican or they're Latinas or whatever, like you aspire to be that, right? It's been drilled in our brains that that's what we should be, you know, whether you live in the United States or not. And that's not specific to Latinos, right? That's across the world. But I think that like, if you support an anti-immigrant president, then they're like at the root of the reason why there's white supremacy, you know? So I think that like, there's a lot of layers to that, but I think that that's one of the root things. And that's just like point blank, right? And then I think that like the economic reasons or whatever, I mean, that's bullshit. Like you can overlook all of these other things because of your money. Like, no, that's just like, that just says more about you than it does about us, right? And then I think the other thing is like, Latinos, we're not a monolith, right? We look all sorts of ways. We come from all sorts of backgrounds. We come from so many different countries, right? Cuba is not Mexico, right? Or Venezuela, or, you know, these other places. And I think that, you know, if you look at Florida, we did this report that shows how many people naturalized per state. And we did, the Florida numbers are huge, right? They're among the largest in the country. I think they're second to California, which is no surprise, right? We know that there's a lot of Latinos in Florida. But I had this really interesting conversation with an organizer out of the Florida Immigrant Coalition. And she said, well, yeah, the numbers are really impressive, but you know, we can't really count on most of the Cubans and the Venezolanos. So we're actually focusing more on the Puerto Ricans that came, you know, as after Hurricane Maria. So that's who we're really focusing on mobilizing to get out the vote, because we know how they feel about Trump. We know where they are, and just that they have, that they've directly been affected by his policies, right? Or lack of inaction. So I think it's really interesting, right? We're not a monolith. We're a complex group of people. But I think that what's beautiful about our culture is that like collectiveness, right? That like we look out for each other. That like, you know, you don't go hungry. Siempre hay un taco en mi casa. You know, like that, like really nice. Like I've had dinner with like Larissa's parents at least a couple times. You know, like literally Valeria's so many times. But it's like that beautiful like. That's like, in the best form, that's like what we romanticize and what we lift up. But I think we also have to be mindful that like, we're by no means perfect, we're by no means superior, and don't buy into that white supremacy, right?
You're right, Nancy. And we are a community, and we start to see that individuals, as generations go by, we start to forget who are our roots, where did we come from, right? How are my gente sufriendo? ¿Cómo les puedo ayudar? ¿Cómo los puedo levantar? Why are we forgetting, right? We can't forget, and we can't forget in November either. We have to remember who we are. We have to remember the words that have been said. Those don't go away. Those words don't go away, and that pain continues. So I know that we're talking about, you know, about movements and about, we're talking about the immigrant rights movement. And I know, Larissa, you've been so involved with both the immigrant rights movement and the Black Lives Matter movement. And I feel like it's so important for us to seek liberation together for all communities, because we are treated unjustly. So how can we build solidarity and strengthen ties between the immigrant community and the non-immigrant Black community?
Sorry.
Larissa, I think you're still muted. A ver. Oh, maybe I can hear you.
There you go. Sorry about that. Yeah, so it starts with our corazones, or hearts. I remember what my grandma used to tell me all the time, you know, like, just like Nancy mentioned, like, aquí está un taco, necesitas algo. It starts with being have that heart to love other people before judging. like I said, you can be being led by all the negative stuff. Obviously, things are happening out there for a reason. Because I hear a lot of Latinos, which is, like, why is it necessary to do this or do that? But I have been fighting a long time with all kinds of communities and diversities of Black, brown, Asian, Muslims, all of this different type of people that really, when you get to know them, they're humans, and we all have a struggle. So it's really important that we get together, because when we're together, we outnumber them. We are way more than them, and we are powerful. And that's why they divide us. That's why they do what they do. That's why they brainwash us. That's why they expose all of the little bit of crimes that are like from one race on another race. And like, when we know white people, it's like the biggest population, and that we don't see that very much. We don't see a white person murdering, like, that just murdered a Latino. They don't want to bring that out in the news, right? But they want to put out a Black person that did something to a Latino or to a Asian, and all of that. We need to stop listening to that. We need to stop being a cheat from that white supremacism, be a victim, actually, of all of that evil, because that's how they want us. That's what they want us to think like. That's how they want us to see other people like. They want us to, because we talk about, a lot of people I hear, like, they're saying, oh, I'm not into politics, or all of these things about politics, which is annoying and hard to understand. But really, it is because we are in a system that has built us into this. I mean, we had to be at work all the time to be able to survive. We have to, pay rent, pay for food, and all of this stuff. And these are all things that there's all these things that we're suffering because they keep making decisions without our word, without our saying, without our, letting them know how we feel about small things or big things, and all of that. They want us to be divided. They don't want us to have a voice. They don't want us to know those things are going on. They want to keep controlling what they have created, a system that works to criminalize Black and brown people, that works to put different races against each other, even like within our own communities, within our own races, or like within the Latino community. They put this type of people, they pay them so that we can get more oppressed than we are. And like y'all mentioned, they live of our communities. I mean, they say they're for our communities, they say they will stand up for our community, but when things are happening, they're not there. And all of that, really, it's not okay. It's not okay. We need to dismantle the whole supremacism in every space in this country, because that's what really keep us weak and ignorant. And that's why we don't see the unity that we need to really be creating. Instead of listening to all of the negative stuff, we need to be getting together and get to know each other, talk to each other, and fight together, because we have so much power when we do. Like I said, when I got involved with more deeply with the Black Lives Matter movement, it really opened a lot of doors and windows that I had never really, because we were so many of us. We're so many of us, and like, we are so powerful. And I have always want, all of the every race, every community to come together, no matter who they are, or what color they are, or what their struggle are. We fight for your struggle, you fight for my struggle, and it's amazing. It's really amazing. One of my one of my recent experience was last Wednesday when I organized the Abolish Ice protest, because that was September 2nd. So on September 1st, ICE announced that they deported over 2,000 people in the period of the 6 weeks or something, and that is not okay. I mean, they have been doing so many things already in this pandemic. They were ordered by the Supreme Court to release all the kids that were in cages, and they didn't. So this is enough. This is enough, and it was so inspiring to me to see all of these organizations, Black-led organizations, that were like, yes, we're going to come out and we're going to scream. We're going to tell them we're not okay with that. The whole damn system, it's guilty as hell. So they all had to go. And to me, I had never had that before. I had never seen that before here in Madison. It was beautiful. It was so amazing, just marching, fighting, and, screaming that we're not okay and that we'll continue to come together, because that's how powerful we can be. When we come together, we can send our message way farther and way louder.
Yes, together we are stronger, and I feel like I hope to continue to look for ways to build solidarity between our communities. If you're just joining us, you are joining the Latinx TalkBack on immigration in our community. And I have Valeria, Nancy, and Larissa with me, three brilliant, strong chingonas who are on the ground doing the work. Valeria, do you have some words for us about solidarity with the Black Lives Matter movement?
I think a lot of the things I want to lift up what Larissa said, like super on point. Like, how could we not be hand in hand? But the reality is that yes, we have to organize like externally, but internally with our friends and family, like that's where it becomes more real. And I think we really have a duty to also organize our families, right? Because good organizing means building relationships, having good conversations, and of course, I think being real and like listening is really key. And I know that, like, I think since the day I feel like I saw the world with different eyes was a day that honestly I was consistent as hell and making sure my family could be on board, right? And I think it's been many years, and that I guess those conversations still happen, right? And being okay with being uncomfortable with those conversations and accepting the tension that comes with changing someone's eyes, right? Because they're probably going through angry brown girl, angry brown dad, angry whatever, right, person stage, right? Where they're like realizing all this stuff, and it's just like everything you learned your whole life, they turn it on your head. Yeah, like it's what, so I think like that's another thing that like it takes some internal work to know like what that feels like. I almost think it's easier that I could knock on someone's door, like a cold knock, and try to organize them than my family, right? I think that's even harder for me. So I think consistently like confronting it and calling it out as it is, right? Y como dijo Larissa, like it's with love, right? And then also it's like with protecting your energy and knowing like who can be along with you in this and who's not there, right? And sometimes it is our own friends and family, right? But we can only hope, right, that they have like a revelation or they look at the world with different eyes, And so that's one thing. And sometimes it's like being real, like, yo, like listen to your homie Montana from Blood In Blood Out when he said that they want Black Chicano people killing each other, and once we're together, like they don't run shit, And so I think it's like being relevant and like knowing your person who you're talking to and talk to them in the way that one that you like already know how they talk, pero también like hitting it home with them, right? Like, yeah, you're right, I'm pretty sure like you fast forwarded it during that part, didn't you? So like I don't know, like it's it's always a struggle, right? And like, just like our work, organizing in our friends and family is also a big one. Like, even if it's like conversations around voting, right? Conversations about not voting, like validating people that like not voting doesn't mean that like, oh, you ain't shit, what are you talking about? But right, there's like a lot of stuff behind that, right? Like, people have bad relationships with it. Like, first time I voted for Obama. I can't tell you how salty I was. I was like, fuck, like, what did I just do? You know? So just yeah, I was burned. I was like, oh hell no. But yeah, so I mean, I think like there can be a lot of things said on like how colorism, you know, works in our communities. Like, if someone in my family thinks I'm too dark, then damn, we're gonna have. If you tell me to get out of the sun, damn, we have a lot to talk about then. Like, so, it's just a lot to unpack into like guiding, you know, our families to like unlearn that they see in, como dijo Nancy, they see it in TV, they see it in TV shows. You're complimented or you know, insulted by just like color of your skin or saying certain babies are cuter than others, you know, shit like that. That's like, well, then we got some work to do. And then I think like slowly but surely, you know, I've experiencing having more allies from my family who like, now I feel like I have someone who has my back, right? Like, you don't feel like you always got to check your family member, but someone else was, you know? I mean, might not get invited to the parties as much, but I'm still showing up, you know? So I'm ready to ruin Thanksgiving.
Yes. I just want to add something really, really quick to this topic because I know we have to move on to the next one. I've summarized my points porque soy bien platicona and I can go on forever. But number one, you don't have to be Black to fight for Black liberation. Like, just, you don't. If you're brown, if you're white, like, do it for the right reasons. And like Larissa said, it starts with your heart. Like, that shit's not right. That shit's never going to be right. You know, what we're seeing on TV. So like, just FYI. The second point, ask yourself, am I really fighting for justice? I heard this from Linda Sarsour and it fucking stuck with me. Like, if you show up to all the immigrant rights marches, ask yourself, why didn't I go to the Black Lives Matter march? You know, like, just ask yourself that. Let that sit with you. And like, don't, you know, think about it. What does that mean, right? So if you're really for justice, don't just be for justice for yourself and for people that look like you. If you're for justice, that means you want everybody and their fucking mom to be free, right? And that means something, right? And then third, like, defund the police is like a really important argument. And if you're triggered by that, if that bothers you, like, talk to organizers, like, learn more about what that means, because it's a really important statement and it's a really important thing. Like, we're up against an institution that is racist and that at its core is white supremacist. It's a white supremacist organization, right? And I think just the establishment, the whole system, right? So if you don't understand it, like, why am I triggered by this? You know, like, talk to organizers. And then the last thing I want to say is our movement, the immigrant rights movement, stands on the shoulders of the civil rights movement. And I want to say this part in Spanish because I think like some people struggle with this. Pero si tú tienes un trabajo donde trabaja gente de diferentes razas, eso es gracias a gente negra que luchó por eso. Si tus hijos van a la escuela y van con niños de diferentes razas, eso es porque alguien luchó para que tus hijos tuvieran ese derecho, ¿verdad? Porque si tus hijos no son blancos, no iban a tener ese derecho, ¿verdad? Iban a tener que ir a otro baño, a otra escuela y no poder tener acceso a trabajos ni a universidades. Así que hay que tener eso muy en claro cuando estamos hablando de estos temas, porque tenemos que entender mucha historia y, como dice Valeria, esas conversaciones empiezan con nuestra familia. So yeah, I just wanted to make a couple of points on there because this is the way it's going to be, right? Our shit has to be intersectional. We're not going back to these silos. So just how do we continue to do that?
Yes, thank you. You gave me chills. And if you're just tuning in, you are tuning into Three Chingonas and a Moderator on Buscan Su Mujer.
That's a really good title though, for the following thing.
This is a
That's
Latinx
a good one.
on immigration in our community. And Valeria, you said it, action. We need to look into our families first. We have to call out our family members when they are making comments about whether it be, protesting or looting or the Black Lives Matter movement. Let's call it out. Let's ruin Thanksgiving, like you said. Let's ruin the next quince, okay? Because we have something to say, right? And we're gonna and you're gonna learn and you're gonna hear it from me. So what we're gonna end with, just like Valeria said, is with action, right? How can we support liberation of our communities? What actions can we take? And like I was talking with Larissa earlier, Larissa, she's out there with her body, with her mind, with all of her energia. And right now there's people who might not be able to be out there in the marches, right? But there's things that you can do, right? We still need your presence. We still need your contributions, and not monetary contributions necessarily, but that would be nice. Links
yeah, we need those too.
links are included. The links are below. But it's so important to contribute in other ways. So Valeria, Nancy, Larissa, can you guys give 2 or 3 action items for those people who are tuning in right now, those people who are watching us? How can they support the immigrant rights movement and our move toward co-liberation?
Start by looking at what's going on in your city, what's happening in the city common council, in the county council. Start with everything. Always see, if you are standing somewhere, start with everything that you can see from where you're standing. So start with that. There's a lot of policies that they can be changed. There's a lot of alders or supervisors that are willing to really support this, all of us actually, and we had to get together to push those forward. We had to get together so we can bring the funds back to our communities. We really need to defund the police, because what we know is that la policía no trabaja para nosotros, la policía no sirve para nosotros, solo nos criminalizan. They only want to serve and protect the white supremacists, the rich, the wealthy ones. And they also pick and choose whose property, because wage theft is the biggest property theft in the United States, and they don't protect that. They don't protect workers. So we need to really change policies, create boards. Like in Madison, we just got a big win last week, where there's going to be a one-of-a-kind in the whole country community oversight board. And I am so proud of that, because we're finally are able to get some community to oversight the whole police department, and make sure that they're held accountable for everything that they're doing toward Black and brown people, indigenous people, because they have been doing so much damage in our communities. And we open our eyes more and more. I have been checking my family as well, and using small basic things like, Mom, what will you do if it was me? And all of those things. Check your family, check your friends. Hay que echarle bolita, and really we need to push these policies, create these policies. If we have to, we need to find our allies in those positions. If not, we need to make sure we mobilize the vote, get everyone, that can vote, get them out, make sure we vote those people that are not doing their job, that we're paying them for. Vote them out. We can, take over those seats, or we can have decent people in those seats, because it's been long overdue, and we really deserve transparency in every position that is out there. So continue to work with all these organizations that are doing a lot of the work. Continue to talk to the people that it's out there. Sometimes people, it's out there and they don't know how else can they support all of the movements. It's not about coming out and scream abolish ICE or Black Lives Matter, but we need to put an action and demands behind that, and make sure we push them forward at a local level, state level, in this country, everywhere that we can, in our jobs, in our house. We need to make sure we we are in this in the right side of the history, because it's long overdue, or people are suffering. One of the things that really came to my mind when Nancy was talking about the Black people fought for us to be on those spaces now. Sí es cierto. Texas had I believe it was like 1942, cuando tenían los signs que decían no perros, no mexicanos, no negros. That's how much how we were treated. Así nos trataban, así de que nos trataban como perros, como que todos estábamos en la misma condición. And now, I mean, dogs get treated better than we do. So we need to continue to fight. We know it's more than clear that Black and brown people, it's the one group most vulnerable, the ones that are going through the most struggle right now, and the most abuse from every department out there, every institution out there. I mean, it's the education institutions, every institution that we can think of. We're always left behind. We're always getting treated like we're less, and all of that tiene que cambiar. Pero si no nos unimos, eso no va a cambiar. El pueblo unido jamás será vencido, pero no podemos parar ahora que estamos más unidos que nunca, and we really have to continue to push our demands and create those policies and be in those spaces and be at that table and take over every space that we can with our voices, with our bodies, with our experiences, and take it to the streets if you can. If not, we donate that. Donate to those people putting in the work that is out there in the streets as well, because at this point, they're not even trying to, they're trying to say protesters are criminals and all this stuff. And eventually we're not going to be able to fight for anything. So this is a time where we need to fight together. We need to fight hard, and we need to be stronger and more united than ever.
And I know we're running a little over time, but if you all can continue to just listen out to our last two panelists on their action items. You are tuned into the LatinX TalkBack on immigration in our community. Nancy and Valeria, what are some things that our community can do to take action to support the immigrant rights movement?
I think Larissa also spoke to that a little bit, but I think everyone has a role, right? Whether that's like being in the streets, that's, at home, talking shit to the tia. I'm just kidding. Like, I think everyone has a role, right? Like, and it might not be in the spotlight, or maybe you don't like to be in the spotlight, and that's cool. I think it could be as simple as like making sure, our friends and family, like, see un chingo de posts that are educational, that could possibly shift their new perspective, right? Having conversations at home, getting to know new people and getting to know their stories, developing yourself as an organizer, like whether that's, sending people like notes of appreciation and love, like everyone has a role. Give someone a hug, right? Like, I think being there for others, and like even just listening to people who might like really be struggling with it. And I guess the other thing I would say is, I think for our communities, like money's not a motivator, it's a tool, right? And so lo que vas a gastar en las chelas, give us a little bit more, or don't get a 24, get a 12 pack. Like I think money goes I think money can help. Our people who are out on the ground, like a lot of people are not getting paid for it, right? And they deserve to eat too and live good and feel supported. And sometimes that comes in the form of cash, right? I don't hit on the Cash Apps or Venmos, right? Because they got to eat too, and like they're dedicating entire days, weeks, months to our movement. And so, yeah, like let's be there, especially people who know they can spare a little bit more, right? But yeah.
Yeah, with the dollars, there's links below. Support the organizations that are doing this work. including the organizations that are represented on this panel. Take care of your organizers. Send them a letter. Send them a soda. Send them a gift card to, no say, Hy-Vee or wherever you shop. I don't shop at Hy-Vee. I shop at Pick and Save. Let's support each other even in those ways, because sometimes we tend to forget our organizers, the work, the toll, the emotional toll that it takes to do this work. There's small ways that you can appreciate the people who are doing the work, and that's a great way to help. Nancy, you want to finish it off?
Yeah, and I have personally received a card from Valeria, so it feels really nice. And I know people may not think this, but she's actually really sweet. But yeah, I think that makes people feel good, you know, like you could be having a shitty day and like, oh, my girl sent me like, you know, a card. Yeah, I think this was so cool to be able to do this. I know we're getting to the end here, so I'm thinking about a couple of things. So if you're watching this and if you're not registered to vote, que esperas, register, right? If you can't vote, then you for sure can think of at least 5 people that can vote. So make sure that you create your little list and that you're reaching out to people and like, hey, I know you can vote, you know that I can't, so, you know, can you get out there and vote? And then if they're so enthused, maybe they'll help create a list of their own, right? And if you want to take it another step, get in touch with Voces and you can become a vocero and be part of their Voceros por el Voto program, which Larissa knows all about. Of course, I come from Voces. This is my home organization, so of course I got to put in the plug. I think it's a really great way to get folks involved, regardless of whether you can vote or not. And I see a lot of people here that are in the chat that are watching that are also, you know, lifelong voters that, you know, are super plugged into their communities. Run for office. We need people like you. We need people that have, you know, a conscience. We need people that will fight for us. So think about that. You know, I think that that's something that I've wanted to do, being in different national spaces, thinking about how can we in Wisconsin, you know, number one, flip the assembly, you know, flip the state senate. But that's going to take people to do it. That's going to take good people to do it. Not just like mediocre, okay, he's the lesser of two evils people. We need like really good people in there. So I think, I know that there's organizations like Emerge, Wisconsin, and other folks like that that are putting in the work. But I think it would be great to see like a people of color cohort or something like that, because we have very specific barriers, right? The other thing that I want to say is a call to action. You know, look up your Black Lives Matter chapter, your local, you know, are you plugged in or how are you helping? If you're not able to be in the streets because of your health or whatever, you know, what are other ways that you can support some of these orgs? And, you know, like I said, this is not a sprint, it's a marathon. This is how it's going to be. So, you know, just how can you show up authentically? Like, don't show up like an asshole, right? Like show up like an actual human and just lead with that, right? Lead with your heart. I also want to drop in the chat, newamericanvoters2020.org. So this is the campaign that I'm working on, that I'm leading, and this is like my baby right now. So since Trump began his presidential bid, so a couple years before he went into office, from that point to now, there have been over 5 million people that have naturalized. So with that huge increase, the immigrant electorate, so people that have become citizens, are now 10% of the voting bloc across the United States. That's pretty huge. So we all know somebody that's naturalized. Maybe some of us are naturalized, right? I know both of my parents are naturalized. So make sure that you vote. You know, they hate to hear it, right? The immigrant electorate, but we're going to keep growing, right? We're already 10% in this critical year. So the website, newamericanvoters2020.org, if you click on your state, you can get all the information about how you can make sure that you get out to vote, but also just think about who else you can plug in. So yeah, those are my calls to action, and just really happy. I also want to thank Araceli for inviting us here and for putting this together. I had like a super random phone call with her. Her and I had been like trying to connect, and then we had kind of kept missing each other, but then we did, and then, you know, here we are. So I think las cosas pasan cuando tienen que pasar. But yeah, this was wonderful, and back to you, Aissa.
Yeah, you guys are awesome. And like you said, Nancy, it's a marathon, and I'm happy to be alongside you guys in this marathon because we have a long way to go, and it's just the beginning. We're at mile 1 right now, right? And we got many more to go. So juntas en la lucha, right? Let's keep fighting. Si se puede. And you guys are great. Continue your awesome work. I saw a question in the chat. Yariet, we're going to send you my email address so we can like just talk about your question. So we will address the question in the chat. We'll drop my email address in there. So thank you everyone for tuning in to the Latinx Talkback on immigration in our community. This was so much fun. You guys are awesome. Maybe we can convince Araceli to let us do this again. Thank you, guys.
Thank you for inviting me. Thank you. Adios.
Thank you so much.
Good night.
Buenas noches.
Bye-bye.